car wash out in Berwyn, Illinois. We got the Chicago Summer Series second event coming up, Jer. This weekend is the North-South Challenge run by Danny Atkins, and we got a great show. So that's Jerry Brown.
I'm back, ladies and gentlemen.
So what we're going to be doing today is we launched something last night called the SSA Chicago Summer Series Player Spotlight, and I interviewed Tom Boyle yesterday, and I'm going to throw Tom's stats up there because we got to give him the beauty treatment as well. And I'm going to be throwing it over to George Bliss. He's going to be interviewing another one of our player spotlights, Mike Oliver from Sauce, and I'll be putting the stats up there a little bit during the interview, and we'll flip them over right now. So right now we're going to head out and we're going to head over to George Bliss.
Did you say legend? Look at this here about Sauce. This is Mike Oliver, and he's from the Naperville area. I just found out a few weeks ago, Gio, that his grandfather is, I see Sal Oliver from the Stompers. He's a legend.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
How's everything going on Sauce this year, brother?
Awesome. Awesome. We're building a great team. We got a good foundation, and hopefully we keep momentum.
So you're the center field here, which is a key position for Sauce. You're playing this Friday night in Chapman against Goodwood, opening game, correct?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Right. So how's it going? Who's your captain?
Brian Sloan, he runs the team.
Oh, Brian Sloan.
Yes, sir.
Well, good luck to Sauce. Let's see if you can do something. Win this North South. It's a great one in Chapman. It's a beautiful field.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Played there before. It's a great venue. I know they got a bunch of fields, so it should be a good time.
Sal, if you're watching the great Stompers Hall of Fame guy that I inducted in the Hall of Fame, this is your grandson. He's going to maybe pull an MVP this weekend. Everybody, let's switch it back to the two big guys. But here's Sauce. Here's Mr. Oliver. God bless your grandfather. This is George Bliss back with SSA.
Okay, that was Mike Oliver. We're going to throw Mike's stats back up there. Mike had a tremendous weekend at the TOC, and he is a player that you probably never heard of, but he is certainly somebody to keep an eye on. We've seen Mike play a lot of times, especially in the Dome, and just a really nice kid. Sauce, good group of guys. Brian Sloan does a great job with them, Jerry. And
He's their fearless leader.
yeah, and so hopefully Mike will be able to continue his fine play, and it should be pretty good. So as we move along, I got a slide here with the bracket. Obviously, Jerry, it's a little compact. It's tough to read, but we're going to go through quarter by quarter of the bracket, starting with the top, and then we're going to give our thoughts and opinions on it. And it should be pretty good. Of course, later on, I think George Bliss is going to have a tribute to Mike Frigetto, and we'll get back to him when we're done discussing it. So stick around, and we hope you enjoy it. So moving right along here, we'll move to that upper quadrant, and you can see it on the screen now. Players in playing West Side Outlaws Thursday at 6:30. Winner feeds into Dynasty. We got March High Y at 6:30 as well. And then the winner is going to feed into the winner of Shooters and Menace. So, Jerry, what do you think about this quarter bracket?
Well, this quarter bracket is going to be very interesting because even though Players Inc. so far is 0-7 in Forest Park, this might be a galvanizing moment for them coming into the tournament, because something about tournament play makes everybody come together as one. And when you get on a roll, you get hot, you start catching the ball, feeling good about yourselves, and you go from there. But the play, what I want to do is, for this bracket, I had a player of the bracket I want to use. And I want you guys to look out for Keenan Conley for the Shooters. He is my player of the bracket. So moving right along, the game that I would love to see will be March and Highway. March has had some very quality wins. They just beat BTA in Forest Park the other day, and Highway just finished very high, I think third or fourth in Iowa this past weekend. Rounded out the bracket is Menace. They're 3-2 in Forest Park, and we got Chicago Dynasty, who are going to play the winner between Players Inc. and Westside Outlaws. And Chicago Dynasty is probably one of my favorite teams. They know how to win, and they know how to win. And I kind of like them to kind of squeeze, make a really good run out of here. But it should be interesting, nevertheless.
Yeah, looking at this bracket, Jer, and for those of you who maybe haven't seen the bracket, later on we're going to get to a quarter of the bracket, which is about as tough as I've ever seen. But I agree with you. Players Inc. off to a slow start. One thing about Pete, a lot of times his teams kind of overperform from what their league record or season totals are, so that'll be interesting to see. They do have some younger players. They got a couple of older players like Chris Downs on that team. Sorry, Chris, but got to call it the way I see it. And so it's an interesting mix. I haven't really seen them much this year, so I'm kind of curious to see what they have. March has been kind of sneaky good. They've played some really good ball games. And, I think if Highway sleeps on them, that's a definite game March could get. Shooter's Menace, I agree with you. Keenan Connolly's been around now. He was one of those kids when he was 18, 19 years old who popped off the page when you watched a Shooter game. And, of course, married to Ray Zarnick's daughter, so that's a little bit of a family thing going on there. So we'll see what happens here. Chicago Dynasty heading into the TLC hadn't played a lot, but they did go 2-2, so they did okay. But they did continue a bad trend here. The last few years, even though they've lost a lot of good players, they keep losing the first game. So I'd like to see if they can break that streak in this tournament and maybe get a little momentum, because I agree with you, very nice group of guys over there. I think Mike Hickey, one of the more underrated short centers in the game.
One of my favorites.
And certainly one of those teams that just has a great time no matter where they go. We're going to take a quick break here just to mention a couple of our anchor partners, Sweet Buzz by Driscoll Farms, and of course Gold Rush Gaming. But when you come to any of our events and you see banners up or people that support 16-inch softball, make a point of going out and supporting the people that support 16-inch. Okay, we can't do what we do without them. All of these nice things that we do is relying on that. So now we're going to get to the upper part of the bracket.
Question before you go on. The Westside Outlaws team, I noticed that this would be their first dip. Any advice, what do you think we should be, they're young and enthusiastic, what do you think we should be seeing out of them? This is their first time, I think, playing the SSA tournament.
Well, actually, if I'm not mistaken, they have come to a couple of our Class A clubs.
Okay.
And, people running that team, Manuel, and he's got Sean helping him a little bit. They're good people. And I think if I was West Side Outlaws, I think my goal would be to try to win a game, maybe two. And, with the way Players Inc. is kind of being a little of a mystery, we'll see what happens. I haven't seen West Side Outlaws. I don't know if that's a team that you maybe have seen out in Washington Park. But they're definitely swimming in the deep end of the pool this weekend. So if I was them, I would just focus on enjoying the tournament aspect, the tournament play, and just competing. And regardless of the results, everything's a learning experience. So, I think sometimes, you have to be realistic. If they do have a younger team, it'll be a great opportunity for them to get the feel and the taste of tournament softball.
Yeah, I want you to watch. They have two gazelles. I'm not familiar with their names, but they're two of the taller players who think they're basketball players, but they can fly.
So West Side Outlaws team looks like basketball players, and Chuck's team looks like a football team.
There you go.
Okay. There you go. Now we need a hockey team, baseball team, and we'll have all our bases covered. So let's move on now. This is the upper bracket, lower quarter of that bracket, and we see a few more established teams in this bracket. We got Signature playing Pharaohs, 8 p.m. Friday. Then we got Impact Hex playing 8 p.m. Friday. The two winners will see each other at 9:30 p.m. on Friday. Below that, we got the Fat Kids playing Born Divine, and the winner of that game gets the TOC champion Flashback, and also defending No Glove champion Flashback at 9:30. So that's kind of I don't know what kind of a door prize that is, but that's a tough go. So I think this is interesting. CC and Cliff do a great job with the Pharaohs. I know one thing, they'll always compete and play hard. And Signature is looking at times like they're putting it together, and then maybe they take a little step back, and then they come back and they play a few really good ball games. You would, if it plays to chalk, obviously Signature would be favored here. And Hex seems like they're putting it together a little bit. They've been hitting better, and I think with Hex it comes down to if they're going to catch the ball, because there have been times when they get a little loose with the ball. Impact, Tommy LeVar, very young team. We talked about it before the TOC, and he's basically force-feeding his team experience, trying to get them to grow up a little bit faster than the normal course. Fat Kids had a big upset against Signature at the TOC, the last game Saturday night there, right after they took a beating. So that was impressive that they had to change diamonds, and they found a way to walk Signature off. Born Divine, I think, is kind of like West Side Outlaws a little bit. They're swimming in the deep end this weekend, but they certainly have shown that they have the heart to get into these events. So that'll be very interesting. Tim Powell running that team a little bit. So, used to have Unleashed, and that's where Jazz Golden came from. Was Cha-Cha on that team?
Yes, he was.
Okay, Charles Golden.
Washington Park history.
And I pay attention, man. I pay attention. I love the teams in Washington Park. And so that'll be kind of interesting to see what happens. And then, of course, the winner gets Flashback, and, we're kind of running out of things to say about that team.
They're slowly rising. Flashback is the cream of the crop thus far in the season.
Well, so far, they've won the only tournament. I think the key thing with Flashback is what kind of attendance will they have. I heard a rumor they could be missing a guy here or missing a guy there. And most of these big teams, now Flash has a great roster.
Yeah.
If they're missing one guy or two, and they were at the TOC, Joey Aguero played last night, so it looks like he's back. Yeah.
Okay, so his quad is up pretty much now.
Yeah, so he looked like he was moving around real well, and I actually was joking with him before the game yesterday, and I said, "You're not about to do anything stupid, are you?" And he said, "No, I feel good." So you could show he hadn't played in a while. His timing was a little off. Defensively, he was smooth as always. So that's a big bonus, him coming back and being available, hopefully for the rest of the season without any setbacks.
I consider Flash the Noah's Ark of softball. They got two of everything. they got two of everything, and everybody good. So if they miss a player or two, it's not. I don't think the machines are still going to keep going.
Yeah, I mean they're loaded up. I think Circus is here in Chicago really the only team that you could make an argument they have a better roster top to bottom.
Yeah.
But it's close. It's close. So now we're going to move to the bottom half of the bracket. And when you guys see this, you're going to be like, oh, man. So we'll put that up on the board for you. And as you can see, between 45's Hall of Fame, BTA Circus, Meatball City, and Moneyline, we maybe got 6 of the top 10 6 of the top 9 teams in softball,
Right there.
all jammed into one little bracket, which means 4 of them will be in the losers bracket Saturday morning. So,
And quite possibly one of those things might come all the way back around and be a champion.
right. So the first matchup, Hall of Fame BTA, 6:30 on Friday.
I'm not going to miss that game.
Hall of Fame.
I'm going to be late for my own wedding. I'm not going to miss that game.
First of all, what woman would take you?
I don't know.
But so the funny thing about this is Hall of Fame just won the Joe Court Clincher Classic. It was a 3-game guarantee, and they lost their first game, and then they had to come all the way back through the losers bracket. They played a total of 11 games. They
How
won
many days?
well, and basically from Friday to Sunday, and they won 7 on Sunday, double dipping the prohibitive favorite in that tournament, Chucks.
Oh, yeah.
And Chucks had been bombing the ball, and all of a sudden their offense dried up, and they lost 6-5 in the first game, and then I think the second game might have been 4-1. So in a little bandbox like Marshalltown, 250 fences, that's kind of surprising. Not that Hall of Fame won, because you could make the argument they could be the best team in Iowa. I know the Chuck guys, I love you guys, but you got to show me a little more. And they probably will come out fired up this weekend. I know they were, trying to ask teams to play without the mitts. Some of the teams may have taken that the wrong way, but all they were trying to do is just get more practice, because their goal is they want to get invited to the No Glove. I think they will. So they were just trying to get some repetition in, especially before coming to the North-South. They'll be in for the midsummer as well. So the people here in Chicago, you'll get a chance to see them. And that is a big softball team. They got a lot of big guys on there. But Hall of Fame won that tournament. BTA was a little short-handed. They played okay over the weekend. We know 2 years ago they won the major national championship tournament. And it was, I'm still waiting for them really to break out.
Yeah.
One guy who's been playing real well for him, Ron.
That's my clear of the bracket. For this bracket is Ron. He doesn't get enough exposure, but he's well deserved, one of the top defensive players in softball.
He sure is, and they got him hitting 5th or 6th now. So he's worked his way up. He used to always hit right at the bottom of the lineup, and he's getting on base. He's not your prototypical 5th or 6th hitter, but he does find his way on base. Hall of Fame, a lot of good players on that team, of course. 45s, winner of Hall of Fame BTA, feed into the 45s. And that's at 9:30. So, when we sit there and we look at this bracket, those are 2 terrific ball games. And then also 6:30 on Friday, we got Circus in Meatball City. And Meatball had a real nice performance at the TOC. They got a couple of guys, especially Mike Wiz, who I think is our current in the top 4 or 5 batting average hitters on the Chicago Summer Series, and they're coming along very well. Joel Alejandro doing a great job with that team, and then of course Circus now, healthy Chad Hook, here Mike Kalanji and Brian Koronkowski. They're firemen, so they took care of their whatever they had to do. So they're going to be available the whole weekend. And Mike was not there at the TOC, so they made it to the championship in Westchester. And now we're going to have one more of the great players there. So, I'm sure they're going to be looking to go deep in the tournament. And then we got Future and younger team. They won a Class B national championship a few years ago. We don't really get a chance to see them much. They don't really get into a ton of tournaments, but with this being on the north side, up in Schaumburg, they decided to jump into the event. And of course, they draw money line, one of the better major teams. So
They finished third in the TLC.
they did. And so money line, very good ball club, capable of making a deep run and winning this thing as well. And so, you know, like I said, this is, Jerry, probably one of the hardest quarter brackets that I've seen in a decade.
Yeah, this is like, I'm looking at the 45s. They're like 9-0 tournament play. Not regular season play, excuse me. Circa 6-0 in regular season play. And then you got to deal with Moneyline who's playing well, BTA who's playing well, Hall of Fame concessions. Wow. That's all I can say is wow.
This is one of those brackets. I know you were telling me before when we were talking that you wanted to try to pick a player of a bracket. I don't know how you pick a player of the bracket when there are this many good players in the bracket.
About 10 Hall of Famers in this bracket, potential Hall of Famers, but I'm going to go with my man Ron. And I'm going to stick with him. I figured we got great things from him, and I'm not going to turn back.
Well, Ron's got a special place in my heart, and I'll leave it at that. So I'm a fan of his now for life, and I hope he does well and continues to play well. So we're going to move along to the bottom part of the bracket, and we got some interesting matchups. We got Goodwood playing Sauce, of course. Mike Oliver was just in here for a brief interview. We wish it could have been a little longer, but he had to run out to Niles to play in the game. What new for somebody from Chicago, right?
Right, we're pretty running. But I want to thank you for coming by and just giving us some time to us. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, and I think those are two evenly matched teams, and I think that's going to be that's an example of a pretty good ball game that because of the upper part of this bracket, nobody may watch, but may turn out to be a great game.
Yeah.
So, and then beneath that, you got Whale playing Chucks, and you know, the winner of that game will play the winner of Goodwood and Sauce at 9:30 Friday. You know, Whale got some of my favorite players on there with Jackson Perry and Chris Rieger, and they're not necessarily a team that you want to sleep on because when they're right, they will score some runs. And so that's going to be an interesting game. And what I look for whenever an Iowa team comes in for their first tournament is how do they react to the drag step? And how long will it take them to kind of get up to speed on it? And sorry, folks, I had a sneeze there. So if you're Chucks, Whale is kind of a dangerous proposition. And if you haven't seen them, you know, Chucks will have to, I think, play good defense. And, you know, they should, if we were going to go by chalk, get past Whale. But I like that group. I like how they compete. And that'll be an interesting game Friday at 8 o'clock. Right below that, we got Traffic in 10 deep.
It's a rematch in the TLC.
Right. It's a rematch. Two pretty evenly matched teams. And I think that that should be a fun ball game as well. Winner feeds into Iron. And you know, Iron, I don't know how they do it, but they're not flashy. I know Danny hates it when I say that, but they just kind of persevere and they grind. And they were missing guys in Iowa, and they found a way to finish third. So, and then they finished second in the Kickoff Classic when all their kids were still in school. So
they're making noise.
Well, they might be about a year away. I think they need one more big bat to put behind Lane Neiman Jr., who's been having a terrific start to this season. And I think if they get one more road grader in there, and when their younger kids are finally done with school and playing full time, that's a team to keep your eye on.
And I want to say this, Lane Neiman Jr. is my player of this bracket to watch. And like I said before, and like you just reiterated, Iron has been playing really good. And I would not be sleeping on Iron in this bracket. Chucks would be the favorite on paper, but paper doesn't mean anything. You got to play the game.
You're right about that, Jerry, and I think sometimes teams forget about that. And, I love this summer series. We're getting a lot of great feedback. Talking to Tom Boyle, he was fired up out of his mind. He loves the statistics and everything else, and we're doing other spin-offs on it. This is the second stop in the summer series. We got 2 more events, so when we put up the statistics, the batting statistics, you'll now need 22 at-bats to qualify with another tournament. So we'll see if some of the people currently up there in the top 15 or whatever stay there, and whether or not any of them drop out, but it's a long season.
So you're taking the top 10?
Well, I think we put up the top 15.
You put up 15, right?
Yeah, so we'll put up the top 15 hitters by average. And
Coming from this tournament or combined?
they're going to be combined.
Okay.
So we'll show you that, and it should be, we're going to do the post-tournament review next week after this tournament's over, and we'll try to get a couple more players in to do the spotlight, and we'll be doing that. Just a little housekeeping rules. It is an SSA roster tournament. The draw had a few people, but on a league night, it's tough to get representatives out. Please stay in the dugouts. They will be grilling food. Danny Atkins is going to have a band there Saturday night at 7 p.m., which will be a lot of fun. And then we will, the tournament, it's a good schedule. I think we're not starting Saturday until 10:30, I think. And then I think on Sunday they start at 10. So Danny did a good job, I think, of making sure that nobody had to play an outrageous amount of games in a day. And I think it should be a really good, weather's going to be great. And from our standpoint, everything is going well. And we appreciate all the teams that are cooperating and helping out and doing it. So we're going to head over to George Bliss real quick. And George, take it away.
Gentlemen, thanks for the great episode. That was incredible. I can't believe it's summer. 2 things I want to mention before we go off the air tonight. 2 wonderful guys. Friends of mine. We lost them in the last 3 or 4 months. Of course, Dave Novak from Forest Park. He ran the No Club Nationals for dozens of years. I grew up with him in Forest Park. The Novak family, we love you. We miss David already. And of course, our other great friend, Mark Forgetto, the great defensive star. He recently passed away. So this broadcast at the tournament, we want to send all the condolences to the family and dedicate it to you. So thanks for watching SSA broadcast, and back to Gio.
Okay, thanks, George. Appreciate that. And sorry, folks, somebody called me during the broadcast. So, Jerry, any final thoughts? Who do you think's winning the event?
I don't want to give any team a kiss of death. I don't want to say anything.
Or you don't want to make any enemies?
I don't want to make. I'm used to having enemies, so that means I'm doing a good job. That I'll put it to you like this: that bracket where that murderer's row bracket, I got the winner coming out of there.
Okay, we'll throw that up there real quick so people know what you're talking about.
That bracket.
Yeah, that's a gauntlet right there.
You come through that, woo.
Yeah, it's an interesting bracket. Like I said, the toughest bracket I've seen in at least a decade, and it's going to be very interesting. That Friday is going to have a big. This little quarter bracket is going to have a big say on who wins the tournament.
Yeah.
Because you got Circus 45s, Hall of Fame, Moneyline. These are teams that play late every weekend.
They go deep in there.
Right, and the 2 teams that come out and meet each other, and then think about this, in the first winter bracket game, I believe it's at 4:30 on Saturday, the 2 teams that make it that far are going to play. So the 5th team is going in the losers bracket. So pretty interesting stuff, and it's going to be great. Of course, me, George Bliss, and the rest of the broadcast crew will be out there. We'll be live streaming. George is going to be doing some live pop-up interviews during the weekend. So we're going to try to grab some players maybe that, had a spectacular game. We'll try to get you some of those. And of course, we'll have plenty of live stream games. So as we go out, we'll show you the pretty graphic. And thank you for tuning in. And we will see you this weekend, Olympic Park, Schaumburg, Illinois, starting Thursday, 6:30, running through Sunday. First championship game scheduled at 2, if game at 4:30, band on Saturday night. Big complex, big footprint, make plans, come out. It's going to be a great party. So on behalf of my co-hosts, Jerry Brown and George Bliss, can't see George, but we thank you for tuning in. Live from Buddy Bear, this is Gio saying we'll see you over the weekend.
See you. Thank you.